Is the Super Bowl really the greatest show on earth? As a sporting and cultural spectacle, there is no doubt that the Super Bowl is incredibly significant, but is it a truly global phenomenon? And how does it compare to other major sporting events? So, as you can probably guess from my accent, I am not from the USA, so I'm very aware of the potential for a cultural bias when talking about something so quintessentially American. So all comparisons with other events will be kept as objective as humanly possible, I promise. To analyse, we will not be including things such as the Olympic Games or the FIFA World Cup, as these are based on 4-year accumulations that far outstrip any Super Bowl that ever has been or probably ever will be. For a fair comparison, we'll be using annual sporting moments such as the Champions League final, Wimbledon and the Monaco Grand Prix. Big disclaimer here, the data and statistics within the video are correct at the time of recording, but do come from several different sources, so there's definitely the potential for some discrepancies within them, but hopefully they still demonstrate the kind of comparative trends and data points that we're trying to make when looking at the Super Bowl versus different global sporting events. Now, let's get into it. First category, viewership. Presumably, the greatest show on earth is going to command the greatest number of eyeballs from around the world on it when it comes around every single year. And the Super Bowl does generate an impressive range, with estimates coming in at a peak of 128 million global viewers for Super Bowl LIX, topping the 8.8 million of the men's singles final at Wimbledon and the 2.3 million live viewers of Monaco 2025. However, as the biggest game in club football, the Champions League vastly outdoes its American counterpart, with an average audience of over 140 million and an estimated peak of 450 million global viewers during the 2025 final between Paris Saint-Germain and Inter Milan. Second category, revenue generation. American football is famously a money spinner, and the Super Bowl adverts are truly legendary, with 30 seconds costing a brand on average 6.7 million euros, with combined commercial revenues topping 630 million for the entire event. Whilst the Champions League brings in a total of over 4 billion over the season, the weighting of the final itself has been estimated to be around the 200 million euro mark, followed by the Monaco Grand Prix at just 90 million euros. Whilst impossible to break down by individual matches, Wimbledon as an entire 2-week event generates approximately 460 million euros overall, still far behind the 1 weekend of Super Bowl action. However, whilst this is mightily impressive from the NFL, it is worth noting that the greatest show on earth only generates about 10% of its revenue from sources outside of the United States. Meanwhile, roughly half of all commercial revenue made by the Champions League comes from outside of the European continent. Third category, cultural impact. Less of a numbers-based one here, but it is still important to note that over in America, Super Bowl Sunday holds incredible cultural significance, almost being treated like an unofficial national holiday. Add in the wider cultural reach of the creative advertising and the legendary halftime shows, the Super Bowl does create a more active spectacle around the sport than any of our comparative events. How much significance you attach to this, though, is really down to you as an individual. Final category, the ticket trap. So we've spoken about those who watch these events back home on their TVs, but what if you actually wanted to attend these games in person? The lowest accessible tickets available to the Super Bowl are on a lottery basis, but still come in at a huge 800 euros each minimum, which represents less than 10% of the overall attendees in the stadium, with priority given to partners and delegates of the NFL. For the Champions League final, via the Fans First initiative, allocations to clubs will see fans able to purchase tickets for as little as 70 euros. Spectators on the famous Le Rocher Hill in Monaco can view the Grand Prix from afar for just 40 euros, whilst the quirky but traditional queue tickets for Wimbledon will set punters back around 360. So again, the Super Bowl comes out on top here, but when we consider fan culture and accessibility, does having the highest ticketing price point constitute a win? Now, there is no way that you can doubt that the Super Bowl is a truly massive sporting spectacle, but when we think about the fact that it has fewer viewers than the Champions League final, with only 33% of its viewers coming from outside of the United States, a massive revenue model, but one that's overwhelmingly reliant on US cash sources, and by far the most exorbitant ticket price points out of any of the events that we compared it to today, to call it the greatest show on earth might be somewhat misplaced.